How does Venom and the symbiote from Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 compare to the other iterations of the character? Insomniac's Venom has widely been regarded as one of the most formidable antagonists in any of the current Spider-Man games or stories, and for good reason. This depiction of the character is a menacing behemoth who demonstrates a wide breadth of different powers and abilities never seen before. So how exactly does this Venom stand up to various variants from across the multiverse? Well, let's discuss that idea today. What's particularly interesting to note about this iteration of Venom is that he not only seems to show off new power sets and strength scales, but a resistance to some of the weaknesses that most symbiotes have. Venom historically has been on par with Spider-Man in terms of strength, and Insomniac is no exception. Some iterations like the Topher Grace incarnation from Spider-Man 3 are more like Spider-Man's peer or a dark mirror, but the comic version and other incarnations of the character are much larger in size. While Raimi's Venom is able to contend with Spider-Man for a bit, it's not long before Peter gets the upper hand, and he doesn't seem to take too much in the way of damage without Sandman's help. This Venom, however, is regularly able to handle both Spider-Men at once without any serious harm. It's not until Peter takes on the anti-Venom compound that he actually starts to really struggle against either of them. Miles' electric attacks seem to stagger Venom and have some effect, but nothing serious that can cause any long-lasting ramifications or meaningful damage. So now let's talk about the anti-Venom suit. Anti-Venom was specifically designed to negate many of the symbiote's strengths, and without it, it seems as if this Venom would be able to continue fighting off both Spider-Men simultaneously, and this is an incredible feat, especially for this universe. We also see that this symbiote can reach much farther than other versions. Not only does he affect the entirety of the city of New York, but he's able to reproduce incredibly quickly. It only takes a few brief seconds to infect and completely brainwash Mary Jane into bonding with the Scream symbiote. Venom is able to create a small army of symbiotic minions with relative ease. This is really important when it comes to power scaling, as this Venom managing to nearly conquer New York if after just a few days is incredibly impressive, especially when considering the army that he constructs. Tom Hardy's version, Eddie Brock from the 90s animated series, and Raimi's version have never demonstrated anywhere close to this ability. These incarnations have never also sprouted wings like Insomniac's Venom, and this iteration actually more closely resembles the symbiote known as Hybrid. Hybrid, as his name would suggest, is a blend of 4 other symbiotes that each had their own unique power. They bonded with a guard named Scott Washington, and he could now pull these attributes from all of the symbiotes, including camouflage, aerodynamics, and the ability to glide, in addition to standard formation of constructs and superhuman strength. This gliding ability seems to most closely resemble what we see Venom doing in the Insomniac universe, and if we use Hybrid as a model, then we can see just how powerful this iteration of Venom could have become. He also has shown resistance to some more common symbiote weaknesses, namely fire seems to have little or no effect on Venom whatsoever. We can see this clearly during his fight with Kraven, where he quite literally walks through fire unscathed, even though in the comics, fire is one of the symbiote's most notorious weaknesses. Venom is, however, susceptible to specific sound frequencies just like other symbiotes from across other franchises, but even these effects seem to be dulled in comparison to the others. In the Raimi films, Peter is able to use the clock tower to tear the symbiote off of himself with ease, and later in the film, he uses some loose metal pipework to free Eddie Brock. Even the animated versions of the character are sensitive to this, and while the Insomniac Venom does show an aversion, it's not nearly as strong as other depictions. MJ's sonic gun is able to stun Venom, but it's only with the combined effort of sonic weapons and the anti-Venom suit that Peter is able to free Harry. This brings us straight into the anti-Venom itself, and what exactly it is in the original comic. In an attempt to cure Eddie Brock's cancer, Martin Lee, otherwise known as Mr. Negative, used his power set on Eddie and accidentally created an altered symbiote known as the Anti-Venom. By mutating the symbiotic remains in Eddie's bloodstream, he created an entirely new organism splintered from the original Venom. What's interesting about Anti-Venom, however, is that it is not sentient. It doesn't have a personality, desire, or any ability to control the host. Instead, its host remains in complete control over the symbiote's power, which also deviates from the original incarnation. We can see that in the Insomniac game, where Peter is able to use power that very closely mimic Venom's power and the power within the black suit, but without the corruption of the symbiote. While the other symbiotes can oftentimes make repairs to their host's body, the anti-venom can remove injuries entirely, including impurities, curing even genetic and chronic illnesses in the process. And in the game, it was designed to be a direct countermeasure to Venom. The fact that this universe needed to specifically design a weakness built just for Venom proves how much more of a menace he truly is. Right now, we don't know what else could have stood a chance at stopping him, since other attacks and even the combined might of both Spider-Men seemed largely ineffective. In theory, they could have continued fighting off his minions with different sonic attacks and different strategies, which we of course see in the game. But as for Venom directly, there is not much else that they could do. This is before mentioning that he has one other strength that isn't always addressed. Specifically, Venom has one particular advantage over Tom Hardy and other versions of the character. Tom Hardy's Venom seems to be very similar in stature and physical strength to this Insomniac counterpart. He doesn't have the same reach as the video game Venom in terms of being able to infect an entire city though, nor has he created wings so far as we know. But he seems to be the closest counter as far as physical brute strength is concerned. What he doesn't have though is a past history with Spider-Man, which is very important. The symbiote's relationship with Peter is rather complicated because the symbiote believes Peter to be superior to normal humans that it bonds with. It believed that the two of them were equals and could rule together as partners, but the likes of Eddie Brock or Flash Thompson needed the symbiote to gain powers. Peter, however, rejects the symbiote, which enraged the being and directly impacted its future desires. The symbiote scorning Peter is exactly what makes him so deadly against Peter Parker and Spider-Man, the fact that it simply hates Peter for casting it out. Venom is certainly dangerous against most people, but it's personally driven to defeat Spider-Man, which is something that is often shared between iterations of Venom. As far as cinematic interpretations go, however, this seems to be by far and away the strongest version of the character that we've ever seen. He can spread himself city-wide, create an army of minions along with constructs that have seldom ever been seen before. Venom seeks to take Earth as a host, and if any iteration of Venom would achieve this, this would be the one. His weaknesses are mitigated, and if it weren't for the intervention of the anti-Venom suit and Harry Osborn fighting back, Venom most certainly would have won. With this being one of the final weaknesses of the character, the fact that its host fought back against him. Nonetheless, this is one of the most powerful iterations of the character in Venom that we have ever seen. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this version of Venom? And do you believe that he is far stronger than many of the other cinematic interpretations? What are your thoughts on Insomniac getting rid of many of the weaknesses of Venom and giving him far more strength? Is this the strongest Venom that we've ever seen outside of the comics? Be sure to tell us your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments section down below. And thank you as always for visiting the channel.